What is up, guys? Welcome back to another video. If you clicked on this video, you are wondering and trying to get those easy W's by learning how to build the best team comp and how to draft properly in ranked, meaning what to pick and how to play your role properly in ranked. Easy way to get some really easy wins and rank up really fast. So that's going to be an entire guide going over how to draft, team comps, what you're supposed to do as your role, and breaking everything down at least ranked wise on an entire team. So if you guys like me doing these types of videos, I would really appreciate you guys leaving a like down below. If you're new, subscribing, I would really appreciate that as well, and sharing the video, especially if you know somebody that's a newer player and they really don't know what they're doing in ranked and they kind of need some pointers on what to really pick if they're filling, or if they just need to kind of know what to pick and kind of know how to play their role, especially if they kind of just pick randomly and ranked. Sharing this video to them would be really, really helpful. So please share the video if you guys know anybody that's a newer player or something like that, because we're going to break it all down and we're going to go over everything in this entire video. So without further ado, let's get right into this. Alright, before we get into the team comps, I'm going to go through all the roles for you guys. If you've been playing the game for a while now, you guys probably already know this. You probably already know what a point tank is, what an off tank is, what a healer that can be a solo support is, or a healer that can fit onto like a double healer comp, or as like an off healer / DPS hybrid type support. And you probably already know what DPS is, but for the people that do not know, I'm going to discuss it really quick. Keep in mind, I'm not going to be taking into consideration when going over the 3 most common team comps after this, consideration for maps or bans. If you guys want to know what champions are good at the current time, I'm making this for the trick shot patch. I'm not sure what champions are going to be great or what champions are going to be insanely good or bad right now. I will be making a trick shot tier list, which should be out after this video is out. Probably like a week or 2 after this video is out, depending on when this video goes up and when you're seeing this. So if you guys want to know what champions are really good, subscribe and stay tuned for that video, because I'll be breaking everything down and we'll be discussing what stuff you're going to be wanting to ban for this split of ranked, and then for what you're going to be banning for ranked, and stuff you're going to be picking on certain maps and stuff. So I'm not going to be taking any consideration, because some champions are better on certain maps. This is just kind of just a general gist of each role. Point tanks are your stuff that's going to be playing the point. You want a tank that's going to be playing the point and something that can contest the point. If you want to win games, you're going to need something that can stand on the point and contest the point, because that's how you ultimately win the game. You can win the game by doing really good, but in the end, it comes down to capping and going 4-3 and winning the game that way. So you're going to want to have something that can contest the point and just stay on the point and be kind of on the point over the other team a lot better. And that's where you got Fernando, Barrick, and Inara. Mainly going to be point tanks. I'm not saying you can't play them as off tanks. This is just a general, like I said, just a general type list of the most common things that you're going to be seeing as point tank, and this is what you're going to be seeing. Even after the Fernando nerfs, like I said, the patch is not out yet, but I am recording this for the trick shot patch, and I still think he's going to be probably mainly seen as a point tank. Then you got both, which these tanks right here can flex as either an off tank or as a point tank. Makoa, Yaghrith, and Terminus. So you can either run those as an off tank or a point tank. And then you have your pure off tanks. This is the stuff you're not really going to want to be picking as a point tank unless you absolutely have to. Say that you have, like, a lot of the tanks are banned. Because right now, currently, at least in the game, I think tanks right now, the real problem with the game is there's kind of a lack of tanks. So, and there's 6 bans total, 3 per side. So if both teams ban 6 tanks, you're not really left with much options. So you kind of have to pick some off tanks and kind of play them as point tanks. That's the only time you're really going to want to be playing this as point tanks. Otherwise, you pick them as an off tank, and that's kind of what they usually do. That's where I have Atlas, Khan, Torvald, Ashe, Rom, and Ruckus. These are the tanks you're going to want to be playing as off tanks. Off tanks are the tanks that make space for your DPS / flanks You make space for them. You peel for your DPS. You peel for your supports. You make space for your DPS to get in, get the damage off, get kills, stuff like that. You use your ults. You set up fights. You set up kills for your DPS, stuff like that. Just really general gist for your off tank role. Then you have your DPS, which is pretty much anything that does damage. I have Sadie on this list as well because she is going to be released this next patch, but she will not be in ranked for the trick shot patch. She will be in ranked for the following patch afterward, which will probably be the last patch of the year. But I put her on this DPS list anyways because depending when you see this, she's probably going to be in ranked sometime in the future, depending when you see this video. So I threw her in the DPS category anyways because that's kind of where she fits in, even though she's currently not in ranked for this patch and she's just being put into the game. But DPS is just anything that does damage, whether it's a flank, whether it's a DPS. That's kind of what it is. That's really general and kind of just really straightforward. And then you have your healers. Solo healers. Solo healers are the healers that you pick by themselves. You pick one support, and solo healers are the healers that can actually keep a team fully sustained by themselves. And then you have off healers, which is something that you can pick in like a double support comp or something like that as like a second healer. And it's not really the healers that can keep a team fully sustained. They're kind of either more damage worthy or they bring more utility over heals to a team. That's kind of what your off healer / off support really is. And you're going to be playing them either as more of like a damage type hybrid support or something of that nature. I would actually even put Pip. Like, you can argue Pip as well. Like, he's not even that good of a healer. If you really want to argue, I think he's maybe even better like as a DPS. He's probably the only support in the game that I would not even play as a healer. If you want to really play Pip, I think he's even better as DPS. Like, his healing's garbage, so I'd actually throw him into the DPS category. That's kind of up to you, but just for this video, I'm going to be putting him into the support category here, just because he's can be an okay off support. And he can be a main support, but you just have to be really good with him. So, but I think every support in the game can be a solo healer. It just comes down to what map you play them on and how good you play them. That's really what it comes down to. Every single support in the game has the potential to be a solo support, and you can play them that way. It just comes down to how good you can play them, what team you pair them with, and what team you build around them, and what map they're on. So that's kind of the gist, and we're going to get into the next part of the video. I'm going to go over 3 team comps, 3 of the most common team comps you're going to find in ranked, and what you're kind of going to want to build in ranked. If you're either a solo queue player or if you're in a party, this can go for both. So let's get right into that. All right, for this next part, we're going to be building 3 of the most common team comps that you're going to be finding in ranked, probably playing against most of the time, and probably even building yourself. And these are the ones that usually do them the best. I know there's more team comps, like there's other ones. If it is not in this video, it does not mean it's bad. But I'm just going over the 3 most common ones you're going to be seeing in ranked that you're probably going to be either playing against or probably either trying to build yourself. These are the ones that usually win the most and usually have the most success. And if you want to win games, you got to play the stuff that wins. These are the 3 team comps that you're going to try wanting to build and playing in your ranked games just to get those dubs. So, another thing too, like, take into consideration for your role. Not really for the DPS. Like, DPS, I'm not really going to talk about, but if you're playing a solo tank on like a 3 DPS comp or something, if you're playing a point tank, like if you're going to be picking a talent, please take into consideration like your role in your match. If you're going to be contesting the point the entire game, do not pick a talent that allows you to play as an off tank when you're supposed to be playing as a point tank or if you're a solo tank. Please, for the love of God, I should not have to need to state this, but so many people in my ranked games, whether they're a solo healer or they're the only tank in the game where they're supposed to be playing point tank and we end up having 2 off tanks or something like that, they don't pick a talent for their role. Please, if you're a solo support, pick a healing talent. Don't pick Exterminate Furia as a solo support. Don't pick Sacrifice Io. Don't pick DPS Saris. Don't pick DPS Ying. Don't pick Deep Maelstrom Grok. Don't pick like all these other damage talents if you are a solo support. If you're a solo support, you are the only support the team has. They rely on you to give them heals. Please pick a talent and a loadout that allows you to do your job, please. If you are off support, then fine. Go play a DPS talent, whatever. But if you're the only support in the game and your team is relying on you to give them heals, and you play a DPS talent and you bypass more amounts of healing for a damage talent or something like that, usually it makes it more difficult for your team to win. Same with the tanks. I'm not really going to talk about DPS because their main job is to do damage. There's some talents on a lot of the DPS and flanks that are better than others, but I'm not really going to talk about them in this video. So, but I just had to say that. There's been so many times, like, I have to say that people just don't know how to pick in ranked. Please, if you're watching this and you want to get better at ranks and you want to rank up, please just do that. Don't throw your games. I'm not saying you can't win if you pick like a DPS Furia or as a solo support or like Exterminate Furia or like some other Maelstrom Grok as a solo support, or like play an off tank type talent like Scorch Fernando or like some like Pluck Makoa as a solo tank or something like that. Like, I'm not saying you can't win, but it just makes it way more difficult to win. And it's been proven, like, if you want to win the game, like, you have a way better chance of winning just by playing what you're supposed to be playing. So, like, I'm not going to say you guys can't play what you want, but I'm just here to try telling you guys how to win the game and having the best chance of winning your guys' ranked games. And that's probably why you guys are all here as well. So, let's get right into this. Double tank. Double tank usually consists of a point tank, an off tank, 2 DPS, whether that's a flank and a damage, or two flanks or 2 damage, and then usually a solo healer. So that's usually the most common thing for a double tank comp. We're going to build one right now just as an example for you guys. So a point tank, we're going to put in Fernando right here. Going to put in Fernando. He's going to be on the point the entire game. Going to be running something like Aegis or something like that. He's, like I said, this is for the trick shot patch. I am making this before the patch is even released on live servers. So whether or not Fernando's good next patch, I'm not sure. But we're just going to say he's still good as he currently is, because I think he's still going to be solid even after the nerfs he's getting this patch. So he's going to be the point tank. Then we're going to want an off tank, which we can also look in the both category here. Yaghrith can play an off tank. Terminus can play off a tank. Like, another thing you have to take in consideration with this too is the maps you're going to be playing on. What maps are currently in the rotation? Learn which characters are best on certain maps. There are champions that are better on certain maps over other maps. Just for an example, like stuff like Frog Isle, Timber Mill, and Fish Market, you're going to want to prioritize snipers, because those are 3 maps that are really beneficial to snipers and long-range DPS. And and also supports that can actually have long range of heals, like within line of sight. You're going to want to prioritize stuff like Saris, Furia, stuff that has a long ability to reach long and kind of heal from range on those type of maps, because there's long lines of sight and it's not really that close of a map on those. So, or there's a lot of walls and stuff too, which there's other maps too, like Bright Marsh, Stone Keep, a number of other maps too, that there's a bunch of other champions that can be good on those maps. Like, look at the maps that are currently in the ranked rotation. Learn which champions are good on certain maps. That'll also help you really just like put together a better team as well. But just for that sheer reason, we're not really going to be taking that into consideration. This is kind of just a learning type guide, just to guys to give you like a general gist of how to put a team comp together for your guys' ranked games. Whether you're solo queuing or you're in a party, does not matter. Another thing too is bans. Like I said, if you guys want to know what stuff is really good, check out my tier list. I do tier lists every single update. I'll be doing one for Trick Shot, whether that's up on the channel right now or not. It'll probably be up pretty damn soon once the patch drops. Probably a couple days or like 4 or 5 days after the patch drops, I'll probably throw one up. So keep an eye out for that. But if you want to know what stuff is usually ban worthy or stuff that usually gets banned in a lot of your ranked games, because that's also something you have to take into consideration when building a team comp. You're always not going to be able to get what you want because of bans. Just keep an eye on what stuff gets banned and learn what stuff is usually ban worthy and you don't want the enemy team to have, and stuff that usually ends up getting banned. So, and take that into consideration when building a team as well. Back to the team comp, double tank. We got the point tank. I'm just going to put Ash here as an off tank. For this comp. Now we have our off tank. Then we're going to look for a DPS just for this because it's the most common. Usually it's a damage and a flank. You can usually also put in like double flank or a 2 DPS, 2 damage dealers. It does not really matter. They're kind of both interchangeable in most cases. So we're going to put Vora there just as an example. Vora is going to be our flank for this match. I'm not going to say a map. This is just in general. And then we're gonna, as like a DPS, we're gonna put Tiberius on this squad. So now we have both of our DPS. We have both of our tanks. We want a solo healer that can keep both of our tanks sustained, keep them healthy, and then at the same time keep our DPS healthy as well. We want something that can do a lot of healing and be able to keep a team sustained by themselves. Which we have a lot of options. Just for this, I'm going to pick Ceres because she's probably one of the best solo healers in the game. Even though she got nerfed this next patch, she's still going to be really good. And right here is what you guys call a double tank comp. This is the most common comp right here. Is 2 tanks, 2 DPS, and then a solo healing support. So that's the most common comp. And then you can kind of switch this out as well. Like I said, you can have 2 flanks here. You can have 2 damage. If I want to switch out the Vora for like a Victor, that can also work. If I want to switch out for like the Tiberius for like a Skye or like another flank that does a really good amount of damage as well, or like a Lex or something, that could also probably work. It's just kind of entertainable. This is the most common thing you're going to end up seeing in a lot of your ranked games, and this is probably one of the most solid type of team comps you're going to be playing in. Probably getting the most wins with this type of team comp. Next one is double support. Double support. Pretty much what double support is, there's a few different variations, whether you run double tank with it. Usually it's 2 tank, 2 support, or 1 tank, 2 DPS, and then 2, or like a tank, a DPS, and then 2 supports. So, or like 2 DPS and then 2 supports. So it's kind of one of those things. It comes down to what you really want to build. But the main thing of the comp is double support. That's what it comes down to. You have a support that is there to keep your team sustained. That is going to be your main healer. So we're going to get that right now, which is going to be Fury. We're going to throw Fury on here. Fury's job for this team, for example, is to keep her team sustained, whether that's with Cherish, whether that's with Solar Blessing, whatever. But she's playing as a main healer for the team. She is trying to keep people sustained. And then as a second support, a double support, you can kind of flex. You can also run like another support that's also just there to put out pure amounts of heals. Or, being that you already have a support that's there for healing, which is the most common, you can run it on a second support as more of like a damage off type support. For example, Binary Star Genos or like Power Coliseum type Genos. He does still do heals, but you also have a main healer, which is going to be doing the most heals anyways. So you can flex and you can do more damage, and you can play the Genos as an off type support, meaning double support. Like I said, you can also pick like 2 healers that are just there to keep your entire team fully sustained. Whether you want to pick both healing talents, or you can sometimes pick even both damage talents. I would not recommend that though, because sometimes once people start getting cauterized 3, you kind of run low on heals. You usually want to have a healer that's dedicated to healing your team, and then having a second support that plays like a damage or as like an offside type support that follows your DPS around, pockets a certain DPS, or like helps secure kills or something like that, and then you have your main support. So then we're going to be playing for this comp. Usually it's either 2 tanks. You either pick 2 tanks and then a DPS, because you already have a DPS that's technically a support. So then you pick like a DPS or a flank that goes along with that, or you pick a solo tank and then 2 DPS alongside that as well. So just for this, we're going to be picking a point tank, which you're going to want, which is going to be the Barrack, and then we're going to be picking 2 DPS. Just for example, for this, like a Victor, and then for like a flank, probably like a Talus or something like that. Like this here is usually your most common double support comp. Like I said, you can also switch this out for like a double tank. So if you want like an off tank, you can actually plug something in like a ROM right here, like a ROM, and then take away one of these DPS, take away the Victor or take away the Talus, probably the Talus, and you can go roll with something like this, because you're gonna have damage from the Victor, and whoever your second support is usually is going to be running more damage oriented anyways, whether that's crippled Genos or binary star Genos, or like all the other supports that have DPS talents or DPS type capabilities. That's kind of what you're going to be rolling with. So that's kind of the most common, but most common is usually 1 tank, 2 support, and then 2 DPS. That's usually the most common, so I'm going to go right back to that so you guys have that example. There you go, that's double support. Just the most simple terms. Like I said, guys, this is going to be the most simple terms, and keeping it simple for you guys so I don't get you guys confused or anything like that, because I know a lot of new players are going to be watching this video as well, learning how to build comps and knowing what comps to go against. The last one that's the most common is 3 DPS. So meaning 3 DPS. It's really self-explanatory. Usually it's either it can be 3 flanks, it can be 3 damage dealers, it does not matter. It can be 2 damage dealers, a flank, 1 damage, 2 flank, it does not matter. 3 DPS, meaning stuff that does damage, which is our DPS category right here, as we talked about earlier in the video. Going to be throwing Tyra, Vivian, and then like a flank like Skye or something in this, just for example. Like I said, you can switch these out with like 3 flanks, more DPS. It does not matter. It just depends on what you want to build and what people want to play in your ranked game, or what your team wants to play if you're in a party. Then you're going to be pairing a support. Now, being that your team is more of a squishy type team, you really don't need an insane amount of heals. There are healers in the game that pair a lot better with squishier type characters, and there are healers that pair a lot better with teams that are more tanky. Example, like a double tank comp, stuff like that, or like triple tank or whatever, but we're not going to be talking about that in this video. If you're running a triple DPS, there's, like I said, you can pair any healer with triple DPS, but there are some healers that work a lot better. The example I'm going to be using here is Corvus. Corvus pairs really well with triple DPS, just for the sheer fact that you can give them lifesteal through loadout cards, movement speed, small shields. You can heal 2 people at once across the map when they're diving. If they want to play really risky, you can pocket them, you can go in. You play relatively safe. You can play with your DPS and follow them around the map with a lot of mobility. Like, he plays really good with triple DPS. Another thing that really does too is like Genos does, Cherish Fury. Like, there's a lot of stuff in the game, but there's supports in the game that pair a lot better with triple DPS, and their healing numbers match more squishier type teams over like more bulkier type teams. It's just something that you're gonna have to find out by playing the game. I'm not gonna discuss it really that much in this video, but like Ray, for example, I think Ray pairs really well with like 3 DPS because her healing numbers really aren't the greatest, and even then she's able to keep the team kind of more sustained just with what she currently has. So that's kind of something I would pair with Genos, like Isle. There's a lot of stuff you can pair with triple DPS, but like, you can pretty much pair any healer in the game with triple DPS and still do well if you play it well. But there's some that work better than others. specifically for triple DPS that can actually heal squish your team, like a squishier team comp, and a less health-based team comp over having a team comp that has like 2 tanks or needs more healing than this one. So, and then we usually want 1 tank, which is usually a point tank. Just for this, we're going to take a Nara. We're going to plug her in right here. Usually as a first or like a middle, whatever type pick, you're going to want to have 1 point tank that can just sit and contest the point the entire game, because your squishy characters like your DPS, your flanks, aren't going to be wanting to stand on the point by themselves. You're going to want something that stands on the point. That is their pure job this game, is to do that. You're going to have your flanks, you're going to have your DPS running around doing their own thing most of the game anyways, securing kills, getting stuff low for others to follow up on. Corvus is going to be pocketing like a lot of their DPS as well. There's going to be one that does better than the others. That's usually how it goes. If I don't know if I'm you guys, or like if I'm playing in a triple DPS, I usually pocket the shit out of the one that's usually doing the best. I don't know about you guys. That's up to you, but this is pretty much your general 3 DPS comp right here. 1 tank, that's a point tank. You're going to want a point tank. A support that can keep everybody sustained. And it doesn't really matter what support, like any support can work, like I said, but there's some that work better with a 3 DPS comp over others that you're going to be wanting to prioritize specifically for this type of comp, or comps that have really less health pools than, like I said, comps that have more health pools like double tank or stuff like that. So then you got your triple DPS, like I said, can be flanks, can be DPS, whatever, like we talked about a little bit ago. These 3 are the most top common team comps you're going to be seeing, playing against in your ranked games, and wanting to build in your ranked games. These are the ones that have the most success and are probably the easiest to win with, because they're really straightforward and they work really, really well. There are some other team comps too, like 4 DPS, 1 support, like triple tank, double support. Like there's a bunch of other team comps. I'm not saying they're bad. I'm not saying they're good, but the reason why I'm putting these 3 on the list is because these are the most successful, and these are the most consistent that you're going to be seeing. You can build other stuff too, and you can experiment, but I would not recommend really doing that in your ranked games, because more than likely, if you build something different than this, it makes it more difficult for you to win your game, and you're either just going to get outplayed because you don't have what you really need, or there's going to be some other reason you lose, because you're not going to be on par with the other enemy team, is what I'm trying to say. So, apart from that, we're going to get into some examples. I got some examples that I actually have from some ranked games I actually took either from stream or when I was just playing the game by myself off stream in my own time. We're going to take some of these examples from live ranked games and look at how my team drafted and stuff I maybe could have changed differently, and just a few examples we can maybe use, and I can give you guys some ideas on how to like draft live in a ranked game and kind of go over my thought process and kind of what my team or the enemy team, their mistakes they made, or they could have stuff they could have used or could have did differently in the current match, at least in the draft phase. So let's get right into that. Alright guys, this is actually from a ranked match I actually had off stream. This is one I did not have on stream, but it's actually kind of the same. As for bans, we banned Talus, we banned Andro, the map is Shattered Desert. They banned Tyra and Terminus, which you're probably going to be seeing a lot. These bans are pretty common right now. I think the Tyra one's probably going to end up going away for the trick shot patch. Like I said, this was a ranked match for the current patch, not the trick shot patch. Like I said, I'm recording this before that patch. So you'll probably see a Tyra ban probably go away once she gets nerfed again this next patch. They first pick Fernando, which right now he's insanely good and he's usually end up banned. So that's a really good first pick for them. We first pick Skye and Ceres, which is a really good start. Skye is really good on Shattered Desert. It's a really flat map. She can do a lot on this map. And then Ceres is still a really insanely good pick as well for this map. So being able to sit back, heal from range, kind of just do whatever she wants without having to really worry about being dove the majority of the game and being able to play really, really safe. So they end up picking Genos here. So that's kind of interesting. And then you kind of, like, with the maps too, like, you kind of got to take into consideration, like I was talking about it earlier, you kind of can take into consideration, like, what champions are good on a certain map. You're going to have to play the game to kind of know. I'm not really going to talk about it that much. You'll find out what champions are better on certain maps than over others just by playing the game. That's kind of how you know. Or, like, you can probably just play certain stuff on certain maps. Like, play a bunch of casual games. When all the siege maps are in rotation, you'll find out for yourself. But there's definitely champions that are better on certain maps, more flatter maps, or like maps that have more like high ground and stuff over like other maps, or like long ranges of sight, stuff like that. So, and then they picked Victor, which is always a really solid option on this map too. Kind of can just run around, do whatever he really wants. There's a lot of good options, at least DPS wise, on this map. There's a few that really aren't the greatest, but the majority of DPS options here really work. Now, right here, we actually end up picking Ruckus, which I really don't know why we pick, because there's still an insane amount of tanks open. You have Barrack open, you have a Gnar open, you have a bunch of point tanks that are still open. We could even pick Yaghrith because we have a really solid support. That would have worked here really well. Unless the plan here is to go double tank. That's what I was assuming at this point, because we already have an off tank. My team bans Kolga, and then the enemy team bans Barrack, which is actually bad for us because that's one less tank now that we don't have to actually be able to pick for this match. So that's kind of bad for us. Now, right here, I'm debating on what I should really choose, whether I should go for like a second tank, or if I should just play it to my strengths and just pick a really good damage here. That looks really, really solid against this enemy team. And I think I actually end up going Leon here. Yeah, I think that's when I end up going. I'm looking right now, I'm kind of looking at what is really available. Kind of just taking my, like, you have plenty of time to actually pick in the draft phase, right? You got, what, 45 seconds. You got plenty of time to choose. Kind of just going through, kind of looking what's really good on this map. There was some options, like I could have picked Amani. There was a lot of options. Amani wasn't bad. Octavia. But versus this enemy team, Leon was the best match. I end up picking Leon here. Now, right here, I'm expecting my team to pick a second tank, because right now we don't have a point tank. We do not have a point tank, and they have a point tank being the Fernando, and they actually have double sport. They actually picked a Grover and then the Zin as their last picks, which are really two really good picks as well. So right now, the enemy team looks way better than ours, depending on what this last pick goes. So right now, I'm thinking they're either going to pick a Nara, like a Yaghrith, or even like another tank would be really good here, especially versus this enemy team. Like, well, that's kind of what we really need right here. Like, apart from that, like, we kind of get beat up on the point, because the Fernando is going to be way better on the point. They have a lot of damage, especially for a solo tank Ruckus to really do anything in this game. They really do. The Zin does a ton of damage. The Victor does a lot of damage. You're going to be getting lifted by the Genos a lot of the game, crippled by the Grover, shooting at a shield for the Fernando half the time. And then my last pick ends up picking for Willow, which is probably one of the worst options on this map. So Willow is actually not really that good on Shattered Desert, because Willow likes maps that have a lot more high ground. That's kind of the problem with Willow. So overall, right here, this is kind of just an example for you guys. Just kind of an example. Like, we did end up still winning this game because the enemy team had a bot Grover. But I'm not saying you can't win with a bad team comp, but this was just kind of an example, so you guys can just kind of just know what it really feels like and what it really is, and my thought process on kind of just drafting live. That's kind of just what it really was. So, like I said, we actually ended up winning this game. If you guys missed it, it's actually live on the channel right now. I will actually leave a link to this at the end of the video if you guys want to go check out that entire ranked game. We actually ended up winning that game because the enemy team actually ended up having a bot. So I'm not saying you cannot win a game that already is, like, you don't really have a good team or like a matchup against, but the majority of the time it's going to be really difficult, and it really relies on somebody on your team to really step up, whether it's one of your DPS, one of your supports, one of your tanks, to just go out of their way and do really, really well and try carrying the game. It makes it a lot more difficult to win. But I'm not saying you can't win with a just a random team comp or whatever. That's by all means play whatever you guys want. But if you're here, you're wanting to learn how to win ranked games, build a good team comp, and do as good as possible in ranked. I'm assuming that's why you guys are here. Otherwise, I don't know why you even clicked on the video. But that's all I really got for you guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you guys have any questions, any concerns, if there's anything I did not talk about in this video, let me know in the comments down below, and I will respond to your comments. I respond to pretty much all my comments, so let me know what you guys thought of the video as well. Leave a like, subscribe, share the video. Really would appreciate it. I put a shit ton of time into this video, and this is probably a video I've been wanting to do for a long time now. And I know it's been a really highly requested video as well. So hopefully you guys do enjoy this. And I kind of put this video together so it's really good for a long time. Not really so it's only good for maybe like 1 or 2 patches. Hopefully this is good for like at least another entire season before I have to come back and re-update it with either new champions being added to the game or like some really major like item reworks or something to the game. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. Thank you guys for stopping by, and I really appreciate it. I know it's a longer video as well, but there was a lot to talk about. Hopefully, even if you knew most of this stuff, you learned something. And if you are a newer player, whether you hopped over from Overwatch recently or you're just looking for new games to play and you happen to find Paladins, hopefully you enjoy it, and hopefully this makes your guys' ranked experience a lot better and allows you guys to get a lot more easy wins. That's kind of the main thing of this. Hopefully helps you guys out. So apart from that, see you guys in a future video, and thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed.